It's Qué Golazo weekend preview. Man City against Tottenham. We have Arsenal against Leeds, Leicester City against Liverpool. Some big games in Italy as well as Napoli face Juventus and Inter Milan host Lazio. We talk MLS as the season opener is now April 17. We have Jimmy Conrad, James Benge. Qué Golazo weekend preview begins right now. Hey everybody, welcome to Qué Golazo, our weekend preview. James Benge will join us soon, but we begin with Jimmy Conrad. Jimmy, what's up, man?
What is up, everybody? How's it going? I'm excited to be here talking the beautiful game. As always, Luis.
I love it. I love it. Good to have you here, brother. Our weekend preview. Dare we say our biggest episode of the week?
I feel like we can say that before every weekend preview. There's always massive games, so I'm excited to get into it.
Absolutely. And let's get into it. But before we begin and talk to you about some matches across Europe, of course, want to begin with some news. Let's begin with MLS. Jimmy Conrad deserves love always here on Qué Golazo. Of course, you, a former player, former defender of the year, but also just because of the recent news that's happened, the league is delayed to April 17th, which is, I think, didn't really shock me. Right, just with everything that's going on, but perhaps shocked a few. But also the new CBA agreement with the Players Association and, of course, the league itself. I'm not going to get too much into it. But nobody basically loses here. You would think that the owners and the league wins a little bit more than the players themselves, just because the majeure clause is still in effect. But players won't lose their salaries in 2021. But also some other caveats from Don Garber's statement. One of them saying apparently that, they're looking to lose about $1 billion in 2021. A lot to digest. I just wanted your thoughts on everything.
Well, a lot to digest, but I want your thoughts. But let's keep it short so we can get into the weekend previews. I know where this is going. Listen, I not only had all those accolades that you mentioned, I appreciate you pumping me up. I was also a part of the executive committee for the Players Union for the first CBA. So I have some extensive experience, let's say, with regard to these situations. The statements that Don Garber has made, more often than not, are very strategic when it comes to this type of stuff. $1 billion sounds like something Dr. Evil would say,
$1 million.
We have no fans in the stadium. It's $1 billion we're losing. And that's a lot just from the fans just showing up at the stadium. I mean, what are they charging for tickets? That's what I want to know, like thousands of dollars. So I understand you're going to throw that number out there. It's a big one, and the league has grown immensely. I say this as a fan of Don Garber. The league has grown by leaps and bounds since he's taken over. We are friends outside of this, and I don't want to take anything or dismiss anything that he's done to help grow the game in this country in particular. However, he's got a job to do, and that's to protect the owners and to protect the league, and sometimes you're going to butt heads with the players. So I come from a very player-first perspective. I am a little disappointed that they even allowed the force majeure into the original agreement. And now apparently there is, because for everybody that doesn't know, that just means that the league can then use the force majeure and then say, hey, we want to renegotiate. Like that should never have been allowed to be entered into it. I know that the pandemic is a very unique circumstances, once in a lifetime type thing. So I get that they're trying to have some caveats there and try to be understanding. I just feel like the players maybe conceded too much. The 2 years to extend to it, like having an 8-year, 7-year CBA is crazy. Their leverage was getting out of the CBA right before the World Cup that we're hosting in 2026. We all know there's going to be a big boost. So for them to concede that, as well as some other things, it was like, wow, that's a lot. And I think if they would have stood their ground, it wasn't a unanimous vote, by the way. It was, I think, 24-11. That in favor of ratifying the CBA. I've been there before where a lot of players just don't want to deal with it. They just want to play.
Yeah.
They have families to think about. They have immediate concerns to think about, and they can't risk, especially in a pandemic. How are they going to go get a job somewhere else? They can't. If they go to another country, it's kind of complicated to make those moves. So I could see the players kind of coming together and going, man, we're handcuffed here. And they kind of got us by the balls, for lack of a better description. And we need to figure out where we can get our little wins. They got a couple little wins. But I said whittle wins. I love that. I'm like I'm speaking to a toddler. They got some whittle wins, but I just felt like there's just some big concessions, and so it is what it is, and they're going to build off from there. I know everybody's going to be happy to get the game going. I'm happy that there's not going to be a work stoppage either. But those concessions, I felt like the owners got a lot of them, and we're going to see. Right, time will tell who ends up winning the long term of the deal, but I suspect that MLS and its owners will end up doing that. And what's unfortunate is that in 8 years or 7 years, when this is done in 2027, that this going to be a whole new crop of players that haven't lived through this experience, and now kind of MLS gets to I don't know if it helps or hurts to have different voices in there. But if you don't have anybody on the exec committee or on the players side that have lived through a lot of these things and some of the things that the league have done, it's gonna be really important for the players union to make sure that those voices still stay true and have really talked to the guys that have lived through all these other previous CBAs.
Yeah, you made a lot of really good points. The first one, by the way, for everybody to know, the milieu, that goes until December 1st. So like anything can happen after that, I guess. But it is a major component. Basically, if you don't know what that is, it's kind of like a proverbial red light traffic stop. It's like, whoa, everything stopped for a second. We need to reconsider this because of external circumstances, that being, of course, the pandemic, which is really the protagonist of all of this. And to your point, some players are just like, look, I just want to get there and play and earn my keep. And to be honest with you, enough is enough kind of thing. The other big point that you raise is the 2026 World Cup. The fact that this is now goes beyond that. And that's huge because leading up to the World Cup in 2026, the players would have had a lot of leverage in terms of their rights, just heightening and strengthening their contract agreements, everything. So that's massive. The fact that this now goes beyond that, that's huge.
Mm-hmm. It's huge. It's huge. That was their biggest leverage for me, and they just let it go. Now, it had to be hard. I'm sure they've had multiple discussions. Obviously, I'm friends with a lot of the players that are still kind of involved, the older guys, and Bob Foose, who runs the MLS Players Union, been friends for many, 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 many years. So these are smart people that are taking everything into consideration. And when I went through it with the executive committee for the first CBA, we knew the hardest person to convince to maybe go out and do a strike was the one that was home. His wife didn't work. He's got 3 kids and he's on 90 grand. And what is he going to do if there's a work stoppage? Like that player in particular was screwed, not the Beckhams of the world, not the ones that already had their money. Even the guys that were making, 30 grand at the time, they're like, well, I only make 30 grand. I can go do that managing McDonald's, there was those guys were like, yeah, sure, whatever. I'm not making that much. And the guys at the top end didn't matter. It was that middle class. And I get the sense that this middle class could get stung again, or would have been stung with the work stoppage. And I think that middle class is a little bit bigger now in MLS, as obviously the teams have grown and the budgets have grown. So, and they're freezing the budgets as well, the salary caps for 2 seasons. So there's not going to be really that much growth, which limits some of this quote unquote free agency that's now being allowed into it. I don't know. It's complicated, of course. When I think about like a straight up winner, I think the owners got a little bit better of the deal. But again, you're just not going to know until time plays out. I will say though, the CBA was originally supposed to end in 2025. And to your point, Luis, I'm glad you brought it up again. The fact that they've extended that to 2027 and lose out that leverage ahead of a World Cup that we're hosting is harsh. That's hard. That could have been a really monumental moment for the players to really make a significant difference to their futures.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to wrap everything up, by the way, because we could have a whole episode about this, but we have a lot to talk about. But just one more point to remind everybody that MLS now begins April 17, and that's just common sense. Just as more people get vaccinated and things get a little bit easier for everybody, the league itself in the US to improve. Obviously, this begins as well with the opening of new stadiums for Austin FC, FC Cincinnati, and defending champion Columbus Crew as they open as well. So there's a lot here to discuss. But one point, Jimmy, is the fact that now April 17. Hopefully this country will be in a better shape as it opens MLS.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I don't mind the schedule starting a little bit later. I think having more prep time, to your point, to kind of get prepared for what looks like another arduous season of can fans come, can they not, and working through the pandemic as it starts to evolve into whatever it's going to evolve into with these variants and everything else that's out there. So yeah, I don't mind it. I think it just allows them to prepare and be a little bit better suited for that. And then obviously you got television rights, right? Like what are the best times to have games? I suspect I would like to see like a Thursday night game of the week, right? Yeah. If you can have these types of schedules and fans don't matter, so you don't have to worry about weekday games anymore, start having a Thursday night game of the week. They did it like when I was a player, and they need a Monday night football. They need something that's just theirs. And why not make it Thursday night and see if it sticks, right? This is your best time to try stuff scheduling wise to see how it hits on TV, because the ratings aren't great. Obviously we all want them to be better, but But well, let's try it and let's really build some hype around it, and really let's make that the game of the week. Understand the players, give people a reason to, even if you're a casual, to invest in the players and or teams that are playing that particular night. That's I'm off my soapbox. Thanks for having me.
No, that's a really good idea. Thursday night MLS. I think there's a window there to be open. And by the way, the scheduled for preseason was meant to be February 22nd, but Don Garber said that that's obviously going to be a little bit later. No confirmed date. But that's it. MLS. All right, when we come back, we'll bring in James Benge and discuss a little bit more of news, and then we'll preview the entire weekend. Stay right here. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Qué Golazo Weekend Preview. Jimmy Conrad, of course, and James Benge. James, how are you, sir?
I'm really good. I got a haircut.
I know, you look great.
I'm like a Premier League footballer. I'm implausibly well haircutted for lockdown. Shout outs to my partner who did mine for me.
Wow. What about where's the Phil Foden racing line in your hair? That's what I want to see. You should have gone with it. You should have gone with it.
My new favorite English footballer this week.
Well, James Benge, you look fantastic as always.
This is an audio medium.
No, people go on YouTube, man. People watch it on YouTube. You forget about that. Come on now. All right, listen, let's begin, everybody. As we mentioned, weekend preview, but we begin again just with another piece of news, just quick thoughts from both of you. From Jonathan Johnson, our very own Jonathan Johnson. You can read his contact on cbssports.com. Neymar is out for at least, or up to, I guess, 4 weeks. An abductor injury after the cup competition against Cannes. Why Pochettino are you putting him in there in the first place? But that means he's out against Barcelona. Definitely the first leg. I don't know. We'll see about the second, but definitely out. It's a major news. Jimmy, just very quickly on that. Neymar out again. Such a shame against his former club. He'll be out.
Yeah, I feel like the memes are coming about some birthday party that he may or may not have had on his own birthday or his sister's birthday or whatever's going on. The memes are out there and they're spread. And those are one of those injuries that could be due to some dehydration, to some fatigue, to not taking care of yourself. So I think he'll, I don't know, rightfully or wrongfully get some criticism about that. And there'll be some links to it. It's not great, but I think PSG is still in a good position to get some results. I think they're a little bit more balanced than Barcelona, even though Barcelona's doing okay. Defensively, Barcelona, very, very shaky. You're killing Mbappe on your team. Icardi, who's in good confidence. Moise Kean, who just scored against Cannes in the French Cup. I still think that. Di Maria, I'm not saying he's a bigger loss than Neymar, but him and Neymar being out for leg one is significant. I think Di Maria will be back for leg two. We'll see about Neymar. Verratti is still the guy for me. If Verratti's playing, PSG are a different side, and that's more of a key. Isn't that crazy to say that Verratti might be more of a key guy than Neymar, but in a lot of ways that he is. And so I'm not too worried for PSG, but it's still a concern, obviously, because Neymar is one of the best players in the world. Yeah,
I think Di Maria is a bigger loss than Neymar, to be perfectly honest. James Benge, what do you make of it? Neymar?
I would agree. So the thing with Neymar is he could have had a first leg for the ages. He could have been brilliant. And we've seen that, I mean, my mind goes back to the Man United tie in the group stages where he was, this was Neymar as one of the best players in the world. But then we also have big games involving PSG where if you play Neymar and you play Mbappe and maybe you play a centre forward as well, you just end up with so many passengers in defence. And you would rather have the option to pick Neymar, but at least, this way, Pochettino can have something more approaching a systemic approach to dealing with Barcelona rather than just, we'll have these 8 guys doing this and then 2 or 3 players up top that will not really defend much. That's the bright side. I mean, obviously, we want to see the best players in the Champions League, but, Neymar and Mbappe does not make a good first line of press make. That was the one bright side for PSG.
Yeah, and that the press make is emphatically so when you are coached by Pochettino. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. All right, let's talk now, people. Weekend preview. Let's begin in the Premier League. And we have to begin, of course, top of the table. Jimmy Conrad talked to them about them as right now the best club in the world. Man City against Tottenham. Tottenham, who, my God, just went through like the most ridiculous FA Cup fixture against Everton, losing in the end 5-4. Jimmy, Man City, Tottenham, a big game for both, especially Mourinho, you would think. But
yeah.
what do you make of it?
The number one storyline has to be Pep versus Jose. I mean, you can't get away from it. They have a long history against each other. Animosity, respect. I think it's all intertwined there between these two. Obviously, big time competitors. Jose Mourinho, and he mentioned it in his press conference after the Everton loss 5-4, that anytime a team scores 4 goals, and I'm paraphrasing him a little bit, you have to win the game. And a lot of it is due to these defensive mistakes. Spurs have just been, I don't know. They have their own pandemic going on in terms of defensive mistakes that's going on, and they haven't been able to figure it out. And then on top of that, Lloris maybe isn't making the saves. You need him to make those if there is a mistake, and it's a real pile-on effect. And when you go up against currently the best club in the world, that's going to be a problem. Now, the fun fact is the last time City lost was against Spurs in mid-November 2-0. And they've gone 22 unbeaten since then, 16 clean sheets over those 22 games, 15 in a row in all competitions, setting records left and right. They know exactly who they are. They know exactly how they want to play, and they are on the road to a lot of success for the rest of the season. Spurs are not. They're in 8th right now. They are struggling. They need to win this. I just don't know. Even with Harry Kane in the team and Heung-min Son in the team, I just don't know if they've got the goods or the confidence ultimately to overcome the City team. However, I will say Ruben Diaz could be out for this one. And maybe even, I would say more importantly, but Rodri got hurt at the end of that Everton game. He came off. Fernandinho's also hurt. If Gundogan has to sit in there, and he's been scoring goals for fun right now, if he has to drop a little bit deeper, they're obviously a different team. So y'all want to keep an eye on that before you make any bets. What I'll say though on William Hill, it's City are such heavy favorites. It's crazy to me. Spurs are plus 750 to win straight up, which is, dude, Heung-min Son and Harry Kane are the second leading goal scorers in the Premier League. They're a couple goals behind Mo Salah. It's wild that you can get that kind of action on Spurs winning straight up. But even the bookies are like, nah, we don't even believe in Spurs right now. So that's kind of where I'm looking at. Well, in terms of betting, I don't know. I got Man City to win, both teams to score plus 170. I feel like that's the one that's really safe. Phil Foden was excellent against Liverpool. It's a false 9. I think he'll get rolled out again there. Gabriel Jesus will come off the bench. Him to score any times plus 120. Him to get an assist, which he had against Liverpool as well, plus 200. Those are the values that I'm looking at right now. It's not looking good for Spurs, but plus 750 for them to win straight up. I wouldn't mind throwing $10 on that. You never know.
Yeah, it's not happening. Man City's ridiculous.
Okay,
Doesn't
fine.
matter, Rodri.
Right. Thanks for having me, everybody.
Okay, Gundogan sits. All right, fine. Phil Foden, Ferran Torres, Raheem Sterling, James Benge. What do you see here? It's got Man City all over, right?
I can tell you how the game's going to happen.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Let's hear it.
Jimmy with the betting odds. I'm going to tell you the whole game.
Let's go. Let's go.
Tottenham defend in huge numbers stoutly until about the 40th minute, at which time one of the centre-backs, who are not of the standard that they can execute a Jose Mourinho game plan for a big game, which necessitates absolute perfection, one of them makes an error, 1-0 down at half-time. Spurs come out maybe a little bit more open in the second half. That means the second goal comes because they've got to chase the game, and then the game's over. That's just, that's the Liverpool game. That's the Chelsea game. It's kind of the way that Mourinho knows it. That game plan can work, but that game plan necessitates a defender like Ricardo Carvalho, John Terry, Sergio Ramos. What it doesn't necessitate is Eric Dyer, Toby Alderweireld 5 years past his prime. It's about not having the players to play the way Mourinho wants. And I remember speaking to him in a press conference a few weeks ago, a kind of innocuous question about Joe Rodon, who is a great young centre-back. And he was saying, some teams have the money to spend to fix their defensive problems, as in Spurs don't. And that's really, for me, it's what it comes down to is Mourinho only knows one way to take on a team like Man City. It's in his DNA. It's the way that every one of his teams has approached top creative talent. But it just doesn't work without the best of the best in defence. And like Jimmy said, Lloris is liable to make a blunder. Dyer, Sanchez, Rodon, whoever you put there, it's just not quite good enough. But then I don't know what you do. You can't. It's not like you can open up because then City will rip you to pieces. I don't often say this, but I do feel a bit sorry for Mourinho. He can't do anything but. It's like he's doomed in this cycle of trying the same thing without the players to carry it out.
Yeah, no, I think that's pretty much on point. I think that's exactly, and they're going to throw everything. They're the ball boy from last season that saved them in that championship. They're going to just throw everything. But in the end, Jimmy Conrad, Man City just has too many weapons. If it's not one player, it's another one. I think the only saving grace, if there's a hope, I think, Rodri. I think if he's out, yeah, because he's such a vital force in that midfield. But there's just too many weapons. It's just too much. Right? Don't you think?
Yeah, 100%. And to James's point and to your point too, I mean, so many options. Yeah, if Gundogan does sit, you do have these other guys that can come in and do well. I don't know what I can say. I feel like we've showered the accolades to City. I think we're going to continue to do it throughout. But to James's point, it is Mourinho special, I think, being set up. I think even now that they made so many mistakes against Everton, I don't think they're going to take any chances in the back. So any hope of Spurs fans, and I actually feel sorry for Spurs fans too, of them possibly trying to settle the game from the back is over for the time being until they can just eliminate those mistakes, which means it's going to be a pretty choppy game. I think they're going to hope they win a lot of second balls. You know, Harry Kane can maybe knock something down, play it to Heung-min Son, and they can counter with two players and hope for the best. I think they'll score. I do, but I think that City just going to have too much for them. It's a really interesting time for Spurs. Also, this is a preview of the League Cup final in April. So yeah. I think there's going to be a lot to glean from this particular matchup and how each team plays. Obviously, in 2 months' time, there are going to be different players out there, and who knows which of them are healthy. But it's an interesting time, and for Spurs, this is a must-win game for them. If they really want to start to be considered for the top four, maybe they don't. I don't know. I'm sure they do, but maybe that's not where their focus is, because Mourinho's like, I'm just going to win one trophy this season, and top four isn't a trophy, right? The League Cup's a trophy, the FA Cup's a trophy, the Europa League's a trophy. Top four is not a trophy. I'd be interesting to see how he rolls his team out, not only in this game but moving forward.
All right, give me your final score prediction then, Jimmy. Just real quick. Let me see.
I'll say 2-1 to Man City. It could be 3-1, but I like City to win and both teams to score plus 170. I think that's the safest bet on William Hill right now. It's some decent value.
James Benge, final score prediction?
2-0 City.
Yeah, I'm going with 3-1. I think they'll score, but Man City's got too much. I think it'll be 3-1. All right, let's move on here. Another good game. Leicester City against Liverpool. Brendan Rodgers facing his old team and maybe asking for some mortgage payments from his old house, right? But Leicester City against Liverpool, we know, of course, the tragic news, the tragedy that Jurgen Klopp is going through right now. We talked about it last episode. There's a lot going on right now with him, but also the club itself. Jimmy, how do you see this one? It's a big game for both, to be quite honest. I don't know if Liverpool has given up now on the title hopes. They're not the club that usually would think gives up, but realism has to come into place at some point. And meanwhile, Leicester City wants to try and do their best to stay in a top four situation.
Yeah, I'll start with the Jurgen Klopp stuff first. I feel like sports are a nice distraction for grief in particular. I think him having something else to focus on to kind of put that emotion into something else in a positive way will be good for him and for the team overall. I think very cathartic, maybe in some ways. Hopefully it goes well for them. I feel like every press conference after games that don't go well, he's not happy. And obviously we have the context of understanding why in a lot of different ways. But it would be nice if something broke Liverpool's way this season. And I say this, and what's crazy is that Mo Salah is still the leading goal scorer. There's not all doom and gloom. They're the second highest scoring team in the Premier League. So they're still doing a lot of things right, despite the fact that they're struggling based on the expectations that they've set for us over the last few seasons and everything they've accomplished. This is a huge game, as you mentioned. It's third versus fourth. Leicester are 3 points above Liverpool in the table. And Liverpool are only 1 point ahead of Chelsea and West Ham, 3 points above Everton, who they play next week in the Merseyside derby, and only 4 above Spurs. So we're giving Spurs a hard time, but they're not too far out of it either. I think it's going to be a crazy end of the season, different conversation. Now, Leicester come into this one with a late goal by Iheanacho in the FA Cup over Brighton, 1-0. James Justin, though, got hurt, which is pretty significant. We'll see if he ends up playing or not. I don't think he will. He's been very good, and they just don't have a lot of cover in the back at the moment. Other guys are hurt as well. Fofana stands out for me with regard to that. I think Liverpool can take advantage. I think they've had a week to prepare. They don't have a midweek game. Very Jurgen Klopp-esque, right? He's playing 4D chess. The rest of us are playing checkers. He got out of the FA Cup as early as possible, so you don't have to worry about these midweek fixtures. And I just feel like with that week of rest, with everybody kind of now understanding where Jurgen Klopp was coming from, I think there's just going to be a collective sigh of relief. I think they're going to get at Leicester in this one. And they had one of their best performances earlier this season against Leicester. It was 3-0. and they played very, very well. Diego Jota was one of the key men in that one. He's not playing in this, but he's coming back. He's going to be coming back soon. Brendan Rodgers, as a Leicester manager, has never beaten Liverpool in 3 tries. I'm going to say that trend continues. I don't care where the game's being played. I like Liverpool to win straight up, plus 111s, which is pretty actually good value for them. If you want to take it another step further, both teams to score and Liverpool to win is plus 250. I like that one a lot. So that's what I'm looking at on William Hill.
And I think Liverpool is going to want to show up for their manager. I think that's going to happen.
That too.
James Benge, how do you see this one? As by the way, both teams are getting ready for Champions League and Europe.
Yeah, I mean, Europe's really interesting because you've got to have an eye on that RB Leipzig game, and I think Liverpool will be thinking the best way to get something really significant out of this season is to win the Champions League, and they're still a favourite, but a really, really, really tough tie ahead. For me, I mean, this is something I've just been writing about, and it's such an interesting, nerdy little thing, but Thiago right now is on a roll when it comes to fouling opposing players. The player with the second most fouls in the Premier League, this is a weird one as well, is Ademola Lookman. Wouldn't have seen that coming. 15 fouls since January the 1st. He's second place. Thiago, top, 21 in less than 600 minutes. The guy is a fouling machine. It's relentless. And for me, this kind of like, he typifies everything that isn't quite working with Liverpool, where you see him do lots of great stuff. His eye for a pass is still there. He's still creating chances and getting the ball forward. But he's having to do so many things he's not comfortable with. He looks behind him and it's Jordan Henderson and some kid from the academy that he's never heard of before. And there's a counter-attack coming his way. And he's thinking, oh, Christ, what do I do? I better foul this guy. And he's doing it time and time again. And it must be such an incredibly frustrating experience for Liverpool, where they're in this loop of everyone suffering because there's not the quality guys in defence behind them. And I just don't see that ending. And I can't think of many worse teams to be in that situation against than Leicester, that just love to hit you on the counter, that will burst in behind. Vardy, I think, is back now. He played in midweek. So, that's a huge boost for Leicester. And they are a really smart team that defends so well. I know that having no James Justin is a loss, but you've got Ricardo Pereira. Shout out for my guy, Vontae Daly-Campbell as well, young lad who made his debut in the FA Cup. I don't think he'll play, but, there's some good depth at fullback. So I really like Leicester to do something to annoy Liverpool in this game. I think they're the sort of team that are always so relentless when they smell weakness, when they smell a problem with an opponent. So I quite like Leicester to get a win here and turn this into a 2-team race for second.
Yeah, no, very good. A contrasting, thoughts here. Jimmy, what's your final score prediction for this one?
Yeah, I think emotion will carry the day. I think Liverpool are going to be up for it. I am curious to see who rolls out as a center back. If Kabak's going to get his first start as a 20-year-old, Ben Davies, I think he's going to roll out one of them in this one with an eye on RB Leipzig, to James's point. I do like the bet, though. When Benj was talking about Thiago, he has been super aggressive. He's got 3 yellows so far in only 8 games or something crazy. He's plus 33 to get a yellow card in this one anytime. If you want him to get the first yellow of the game, first yellow of the game is plus 1,200. I'm like, I got $10. I might splash some cash on that and see if I can somehow get 6 degrees of separation to Thiago to like, hey, dude, go keep 2-footing people in the butt. That's what he does. So I don't know. That's pretty good value though. The plus 333 or 333.
Especially on Harvey Barnes. That's just definitely happening. All right. Exactly, what's your final score prediction, James Benge?
2-1 Leicester.
Okay. This is hard. I'll just meet both of you in the middle. I say it's a draw. Let's go, but a high scoring draw. Let's go 2-2 all. All right. Very quickly, West Brom, Manchester United. Sometimes you never know with United, but West Brom.
It's away from home. It's away from home. United got this.
Oh, that's true. They're not at Old Trafford. Okay.
That's right.
But James Benge, beginning with you, just because Arsenal's hosting Leeds as well. Pretty good game, you would think. But you got some stuff going on. As also Arsenal getting ready to face Benfica. What's going on? What's the latest with the Gunners?
So much going on with Arsenal. I can't even follow where their games are.
Yeah, true.
They announced the second leg was in Athens. Now it's not in Athens, but it might be in Athens again. Who knows? Everything up in the air about that. And also up in the air whether Thomas Partey will be involved. Arsenal have confirmed he won't play against Leeds this weekend, which is a huge loss because he's kind of their only press-resistant midfielder. From what I've heard, certainly the first leg, it's highly doubtful that he will play. And it's his potential race against time to be involved in the tie at all. It's such a big blow, because right now Arsenal's season is, as it always seems to be, cup competition or bust. Can we win the Europa League? And that would actually turn the whole season into a success. And you need Partey for not just the round of 32, but for every single round, and it is like every single week to come. So it's going to be a really tough dilemma for Arteta. There's a Man City game in the middle, no Kieran Tierney as well, probably for the first leg. Oh, this is getting hard for Arsenal again. This is kind of eking back towards late November, early December territory. I'd be very worried if I were playing a team like Leeds.
Yeah, and by the way, Leeds United, who's above Arsenal in 10th, and, just 32 points. Unbelievable, Jimmy Conrad. I think for a newly promoted side, hasn't been in the Premier League for a while. Marcelo Bielsa's first time ever managing in the Premier League. I mean, there's a lot to say here, but a pretty good game. Any lines on this one?
No, I mean, the ones that I'm looking at, Arsenal are the favorites, minus 118. The draw's plus 285. Leeds doesn't draw. They either win big or they lose big. So I don't suspect there'll be a draw on this one. Just depends on picking your poison, whether you think Leeds is going to score. If you're leaning towards the Gunners getting something out of this and they need to win to kind of break this kind of thing that Benge was talking about, and they just need to score in general. Only 27 goals so far in their 22 games. That's not good enough. They need Lacazette. They need Aubameyang to kind of regain their form and stay consistent. Ultimately, I could see both teams scoring and Arsenal winning. That value for you guys on William Hill is plus 210. That's not bad. But I kind of like Leeds to win straight up as well. I just think they can slap you around. What I like about them is that they have an identity. For better or for worse, no matter what's happening, even if Scott McTominay scores 2 goals on them in the first 3 minutes of the game, they don't care. They're going to continue to do what they're going to do. And I love Marcelo Bielsa for that. However, it does work against you at times. So if Arsenal can kind of figure out a way to maybe press them early, get them to turn over some balls so they can punish them, that's the thing. I don't know if Arsenal is that team this season where they're punishing teams for their mistakes. And so that's where I think Leeds can slip in there. So I kind of like Leeds straight up. I could see both teams scoring and Leeds winning. Plus 550 is pretty good value.
Not bad at all. All right, what's your final score prediction here, James Benge, on Arsenal Leeds?
1-0 Leeds.
Okay.
Wow.
Did you give me?
No, I'm gonna say I'll say 2-1 Leeds.
Okay. All right. Not bad. All right. Listen, when we come back, we're gonna take a break. And then we'll do the rest of Europe, Serie A, La Liga, and maybe some Bundesliga as well. Stay right here. Qué Golazo. We'll be right back. Hey, everybody. Welcome back. Qué Golazo weekend preview. Jimmy Conrad, James Benge. We're going to go around Europe now. Some good games. In Italy, we have Napoli against Juventus. Inter Lazio, pretty good. La Liga, you have Real Madrid against Valencia, Barça against Alaves, Granada against Atleti, and Bundesliga on Friday, RB Leipzig begins the match day weekend with against Augsburg, Borussia Dortmund against Hoffenheim, Bayern Munich not playing. Of course, as we speak, they're getting ready just for the Club World Cup final. What do you have here? Some good games, Jimmy Conrad, especially in Italy. I've got my eyes on Italy for some reason.
Yeah, there's a couple good ones that I think people should pay attention to. Napoli versus Juventus, of course, is probably the biggest and most flashiest of all the matchups. Napoli got their butts handed to them by Atalanta midweek in the Coppa Italia second leg semifinals. Congrats to Atalanta for getting to the final. Gasperini is the man. But they didn't have Koulibaly. They don't have Manolas. Gulam, the backup to Koulibaly, and Manolas is also out. Their defense got shredded by Atalanta. I don't think that's going to slow down against Juve. I think Juve can kind of see things for what they are. They're so close to really scraping the heels of both Milan clubs at the top. They need to continue to get this win. Napoli need it as well. They are in 6th, and they want to, if they really want to still maintain their hopes for the top 4 and get in the Champions League, they need to win this too. I just don't see them doing it. I like CR7 to score because that's what he does, and Juve to win either 2-0, 2-1, or 3-1 at plus 450 if you guys are CR7 fans. But if you just want to play it a little bit safer, I think both teams will score. I think that Napoli does have enough going forward in Chucky Lozano, who scored midweek against Atalanta. Dries Mertens is out, unfortunately. Lorenzo Insigne will be kind of running point up there. As cute as a button, like Papu Gomez. But I think Juve to win and both teams to score plus 290 is probably the safer of it. But if you're a diehard CR7 fan, that's the way to go. And then with the other one, Inter Milan Lazio. This game is crazy because Inter Milan, at least in the league, are unbeaten. in their last 5. Lazio have won 6 straight in the league. They're now got 40 points. They're tied with Roma, who have 40 but have better goal difference or more goals for in 4th. So Lazio are on something fierce. I kind of like the under in this one because 4 out of the last 5 have been under 2.5 goals, even though Romelu Lukaku and Lautaro Martinez are 2 of the highest scorers in Italy, and Ciro the Hero Immobile plays for Lazio. So this is another must win for both. I kind of see a draw, honestly, and I think it'll be 1-1. For them to both score is plus 270 in the draw. So that's kind of what I'm seeing there. I don't know. What do you guys think about those Italian matchups?
No, I love it. And Inter Lazio, by the way, is like the wrap up basically of the weekend. So it should be a very good one. Serie A is where I'm focusing so much because, they're trying to catch up so much to AC Milan. James Benge, anything from those games, not just Italy, but anything, including La Liga, Bundesliga, etc.
Well, you guys have got me all buzzing for Serie A, so let's ignore the Italy. The Napoli one is fascinating because last month, wasn't it, De Laurentiis issued the dreaded vote. I think you have to call it the dreaded vote of confidence
right
in Gattuso. Not just, teams lose to Atalanta and they lose heavily, but, they lost to Genoa as well, I think, and they've drawn with Atalanta. They've lost to Verona recently. It's not going well. And obviously right now on the market is a former Napoli manager in Rafa Benitez, who could come in and tighten things up and actually wouldn't need Koulibaly to have a top tier defense. The funny one for a team like Napoli is now the right time to act, because after Juventus you've got Granada. That's going to be a really, really difficult Europa League tie. Atalanta yet again, I swear it's like the only team they ever play. So the question is, do you want a new manager to kind of come in and play around with things during the most decisive point in your season? Equally, do you still trust Gattuso to give him these big games? I don't know what the answer is. I'm not really sold on Gattuso as a coach who can do much beyond that immediate impact he has with his force of personality. And I think if someone like Benitez is available and is willing to come back, that's a long-term project for Napoli to kind of get them back to where they were. So
interesting.
I think I would be really thinking about Gattuso's future if I were De Laurentiis, and I think maybe they do need to, horrible as it is to ever say you need to move on from a manager, I think maybe the time has come to just sort of assess the market.
Interesting, because I think a lot depends on what happens in Europe, but it would be a very interesting component that you mentioned. Well, what do you make of that, Jimmy Conrad? Because Rafa Benitez is available, and he knows his Serie A.
He does, but he managed my Newcastle, and we were the most boring team. Yes, was it practical and pragmatic and all those other buzzwords we can use in terms of getting results? But, we had 15% possession at home against Southampton in games. You're like, well, nobody wants to watch this. Yeah, we might stay up, but nobody wants to actually watch this. So, yeah, I like Rafa Benitez. Obviously stuck with the team through the championship and got us back promoted. That's all good, and he is very organized. And he's got the reddest cheeks of any manager I've ever seen in the history of the game. But I will say that I kind of like Gattuso. I think there's a little bit of swagger there that Benitez maybe doesn't have. He's just too pragmatic. And I wouldn't suggest that if I was De Laurentiis, but he might see it differently. Obviously, it's his team. And I guess it maybe depends on how they play against Juve going forward, because now they are handcuffed. They are missing some key players. Can Gattuso still get a lot out of the guys that maybe don't have as high expectations? So that's what I would say with regard to that.
Yep. No, and it's a very big game this weekend. Anything, by the way, from La Liga? Because, Atletico's just like rolling and rolling and rolling. 2 games in hand, but good. Now, that's not going to be that easy, Jimmy.
No, I think Atleti will do the business. I think they're in fine form, and I think they want to keep that form up. And I think Benge said it before, ahead of Europe, right? You still want to have a good game the week before you have, or the weekend before you play a couple days later. I like Real Madrid, Valencia. I know Valencia isn't the same Valencia. They tried to sell all their players in the last transfer window and got a few of them gone and, saving the books or whatever. But Valencia had their best performance of the season back in November. They slapped Real Madrid around 4-1. I think Madrid they got 2 now wins on the trot. Benzema scored against Getafe midweek. So I kind of like Madrid to all right, we gave you that other one. We're going to take it back this time around. I'd say Madrid's going to win. I think both teams are going to score because there's a lot of vulnerability in that Madrid back line. And that's plus 180 for that to happen. If you want Benzema to score, there's some action there, but that's what I like. And I'm really focused on that because Madrid seems on the precipice of where are they going to go? I feel like they're at that fork in the road. Are they going to go and kick on to be the Madrid that we've seen in the past? Or are they going to continue to stumble and not be as good as they once were. I think we're almost there, and then we're going to see it obviously come to life in the Champions League as well.
Yeah. Anything from you, James? In Spain, Barcelona losing to Sevilla. Maybe they'll try and get something back against Alaves, but Atleti's looking good the more you see them.
Atleti's looking so good. And I know obviously we're going to preview the Champions League next week, but I do this every time before the round of 16 comes around. I'm starting to like Atleti, not just for La Liga. That might be in the bag. I think they might win the Champions League, you know.
Ooh.
This is
Wow.
It's so difficult. I think most of it is I just like at this time of year, I just go defense wins championships. And I'm not sure it does in football, but I just go, yeah, no, they're not going to concede sloppy goals. You know, I think they've got a few more weapons. My question is always, when push comes to shove, will Simeone just be that little bit cuter and kind of use the great attacking weapons he has? But like, you know, I mean, I know they obviously dropped points against Celta Vigo, and they weren't great in the group stages, but I really don't know. I do this every year, but I like to go and win the whole thing.
Well, and you forgot the number one reason. Luis Suarez looks so up for every single game right now. And like Luis Suarez on form, Jimmy Conrad, is something to watch out for. What do you make of that?
Yeah, I don't know if I agree wholeheartedly with James about their Champions League hopes, if only because I didn't really like them in the group stages. I know they're a little bit of a different team in that first match day when they got beat by Bayern Munich 4-0. They're not the same, and they've got some confidence, and they've got a healthy Luis Suarez, and they kind of got out of that Diego Costa situation where I think his behind the scenes maybe attitude was bringing him down or maybe bringing the team down, and Joao Felix is playing better. But they were still had to go to the last match day to even qualify for the knockout rounds and had to go to Austria to beat RB Salzburg, and RB Salzburg gave them a game. So I think there's still some vulnerability for whatever reason in Europe, but they definitely have it locked down in La Liga. They are the favorites 100% to win it, and I suspect that they will. I don't know. I think they'll get past Chelsea. I think it'll be a tight one. I think Thomas Tuchel will make Chelsea difficult to break down. But after that, I think it's just going to come down to the draw.
Aren't they a different team now, though, Jimmy, than when I feel like they're a much better team.
I mean, yes, in some ways, I think they're starting to continue to evolve under Diego Simeone, and I like that he's starting to kind of release the hounds going forward and not being so Rafa Benitez about his tactics, attacking-wise, bring Rafa Benitez back into the conversation. So that's been nice to see, but I don't know. As an Atleti supporter, I'm going to temper my expectations for the Champions League, but I have full expectations they're going to win La Liga.
Well, there you go. All right. That was our show. But before we say goodbye, let's get final thoughts. James Benge, final thoughts from anything from this weekend or anything that you think that you wanted to mention and I very meanly didn't allow you to say.
No, you keep doing this, but I keep forgetting that you do this. It's like you know when you go to a job interview and at the end they go,
I should have said this. Yeah.
And you don't have one and you suddenly realize I've not got the job.
Well, you have the job here, James. So even if you don't have anything to say, don't worry about it. It's fine.
Still pay me.
Exactly. Jimmy Conrad, anything to add?
Yeah, really quick in the Bundesliga. I just want to, if anybody's interested in the German football, I would say Wolfsburg versus Borussia Mönchengladbach is the matchup to watch. Wolfsburg have quietly got up to third. They're unbeaten in their last 5, haven't even given up a goal in their last 5. And now they're only 3 back at RB Leipzig for that spot. Eintracht Frankfurt was also doing that. Mönchengladbach, for all the hype we gave them, they're kind of the Southampton of Germany a little bit. Oh, they're so good. And now they've been crashing a little bit, lost to FC Cologne this past weekend or midweek. And that's not a good look for them despite all of their talent. So they're kind of stumbling into their own Champions League affair. So we'll see how this teams play out. But I just want to give a shout out to Wolfsburg. They've been very good recently.
Love it. Love it. The only thing that I'll say, by the way, that I forgot that I wanted to say last week or earlier this week is that, congrats to Ted Lasso and Jason Sudeikis being nominated for a Golden Globe, Best
Amazing.
Actor and Best Show. Gotta love it. I love it. So we're rooting for you. They're filming season 2 as we speak. But that's it. James Benge, thank you, buddy.
My pleasure.
Jimmy Conrad, always a pleasure, my friend.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for listening.
Hey everybody, I want to thank Jimmy Conrad and James Benge for joining me today. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter, Qué Golazo Pod. Listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Stitcher. We're on YouTube, youtube.com/Qué Golazo. You can watch the entire episode and other videos right there. We're also on the website. Make sure that you have a great weekend.